Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'll play this video and talk about things that are going on and better explain what's going on and talk about things that I think that are being done right and or done wrong. Without further ado, here we go.
Hello everyone, I'm Detective Richard Encinas, Public Information Officer for the Mesa Police Department. This critical incident community briefing will provide you with information about an officer-involved shooting you are about to see, young children and sensitive viewers.
On Thursday, July 7th, 2022, just after 9 p.m., a Mesa police officer working in the area of Morris and University noticed a white SUV driving behind him with its hazard lights flashing. A short time later, the officer was dispatched to a call for service. As he was driving to the call, he realized the same vehicle was continuing to follow him. Unsure of why the SUV was following him, the officer decided to drive to police headquarters, located at 130 North Robeson here in Mesa. Here is surveillance video as the officer arrives to the secured gate on the north side of the building. As the gate opens, the SUV rams the back of the patrol car and forced it forward. The officer tells the dispatcher what is happening.
Can you give me the channel? I got someone following me into the jail gate. He just hit the back of my car and was ran into me.
As the patrol car was being pushed for several feet, the officer rolled out of the vehicle, faced the suspect vehicle, and fired his duty weapon. The patrol car continued down the ramp and collided with a curb. The officer took cover behind a forensics van where he encountered a crime scene specialist, who he quickly ushered out of the way. The crime scene specialist ran for cover and hid behind a pillar in the garage bay. Several other professional staff were also in the area and quickly ran back into the building. The officer then saw a woman, later identified as 39-year-old Taneysha Shari, get out of the SUV and run in a north-northeast direction. This is when the officer fired his duty weapon again. And here is what was captured on surveillance video. As Carter ran, she dropped to the ground and began rolling toward the security gate. Backup officers were able to treat her for her injury until Mesa Fire and medical personnel arrived and took her to the hospital. Carter was treated for one gunshot wound, which at this point in the investigation appears to have been sustained during the first shooting while she was still in her vehicle. Carter was released into police custody and faces the following charges: aggravated assault with a dangerous instrument and third-degree trespass. The Mesa police officer involved in this shooting suffered scrapes and abrasions to his elbows, hands, and knees, but has no serious physical injuries. He has been with the Mesa Police Department for 1 year, and this is his first officer-involved shooting. All the information and evidence in this case will be turned over to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office for review. Thank you for taking the time to watch this critical incident community.
All right, so definitely odd. It's not the first time police have been followed by random ass weird people, or followed by people in general. Sometimes it's just innocence, or innocent kind of stuff. Like people are trying to get the police attention because they need something. You know, they need to report something. They need help. Whatever ends up being nothing. Sometimes it's crazy bitches like this. Even regular people in their everyday life have been followed by random people. Sometimes after a road rage kind of incident, sometimes it's a woman being followed by a strange man, etc. Generally, what is told to people is, you know, if you think you're being followed, go to where it's public. And sometimes people are told to drive to a police station. That sounds good in theory, but it's not 100% safe. It's not a 100% sure bet. Going to a public area. So you may be going into a public area where there's a lot of people, But that does not mean that those people are going to help you. There are lots of times where someone is being victimized by someone, assaulted by someone. There are other people around, other witnesses, but none of them do anything to intervene. None of them help in any way. They just stand by and watch or record what's going on with their cell phone. So you can drive to a public area, but I would not count on stopping and getting out and then relying on other people around to actually help you. Going to a police station. That sounds good in theory, but it may not be 100% safe. It may not be 100% the best idea. Why? Because sometimes police are not even at the police station. And you may be thinking, what the hell do you mean the police aren't at the police station? Well, during the day, when there should be many police at the station, it could be a holiday. On holidays, a bunch of office people don't work. So all your top brass are not going to be there. There may be an officer there on a lunch break. There may be an officer there doing a report. There may not be any officers there, depending on the size of the agency. They might all be out on calls. On a Monday through Friday during normal business hours, there's probably going to be an officer there in the station, but there could be times when there's not an officer in the station. They could all be out doing firearms training, and the only people inside the station are office personnel, clerks, receptionists, whatever, who are not sworn officers and they don't have guns. So they're not going to be able to do anything for you. Late in the afternoon, going into the evening, and in night shift, there's typically not office people at a police station. You're not going to have all the captains and the majors and the colonels and all that staying around at midnight. That doesn't fucking happen. So where are the other officers? They're probably out working. They're probably out on a call somewhere. And if you're lucky and there is one officer there, that's probably because they're using the restroom. They had to go number 2, or they're doing a report, logging in evidence, something like that. Or, depending on who it is, they could be flirting with a dispatcher or something. But for the most part, they're probably not going to be there. They're going to be elsewhere. So going to that police station sounds good, but it may not always work out the way you think it's going to work out. So on top of driving to that location, you also need to call the police and say what's going on and that you're going to the police station. That way, someone knows to go there to meet you there. If it looks like it's going to be a while before they can get to where you're at or even get to you, continue moving, continue driving, don't stop. Typically, this acronym MOVE is used when talking about gunfighting, getting off the X. MOVE. MOVE is an acronym that stands for Motionless Operators Ventilate Easily. Motionless operators ventilate easily. MOVE. Get off the X. Same thing applies to vehicles. You want to continue moving. You want that continuous motion. You don't want to stop, because when you stop, it's easier to attack you. If you're moving, it's harder to successfully attack you. So keep driving. If you have to keep driving in circles, then keep driving in circles. Keep making right-hand turns. Just keep moving. Keep going. Don't stop. I try to follow this as much as I can in everyday life when it comes to vehicles. You think about intersections, red lights and stuff. If it's a multi-lane intersection where you got like 3 lanes right there, I try to never get stuck in the middle lane, because if I'm in the middle lane, then that means I'm going to potentially have a column of cars to my left and a column of cars to my right. There could be cars in front of me and cars behind me, and I am virtually boxed in. I don't want to be boxed in. I want to be able to quickly move and get off the X when I want to. So I will pick an outside lane. That way, if I need to turn the wheel and drive into the emergency lane or drive over a curb onto a sidewalk, get out there, then I can. If I'm in that middle lane, it's going to be a lot more difficult to do that. And this is also where you generally hear people talk about leaving a reactionary gap between you and the other vehicle in front of you. Don't pull up bumper to bumper when you come to a red light or a stop sign. Leave distance between you and that vehicle. If you pull up bumper to bumper, it's harder for you to maneuver to left or right, because if you try to go forward and turn right, you're going to hit that vehicle. If you leave several feet between you and the other vehicle's bumper, you can very easily turn your wheel left or right, hit the gas, and move out the way and never touch that other vehicle. Now, you can push through other vehicles. You can use your vehicle as a ram if you need to. But if you can avoid doing that, avoid causing damage to the vehicle and risk damaging critical components to that vehicle that would end up causing it to become one big ass paperweight, then avoid doing that. Leave your reactionary gap between other vehicles. Choose that outside lane. That way you can more easily get out of a tight situation versus being boxed in. Sometimes I try to avoid some intersections because I know that the traffic signals take a while to cycle. And just the layout, I just don't like being there because if something were to happen, I would be stuck. So instead, I'll take side roads as I approach that intersection to cut around and go to the road that I'm wanting to get to. It may even be as simple as come up to the intersection, and instead of sitting there at that light, I would turn right and drive through a parking lot to get to the road that I was wanting to get to by turning right. So instead of sitting at the light, I'll just cut through a parking lot and continue moving. The idea, like I said, is always stay in motion. It's harder to be attacked. So this guy, he kept moving, and he didn't stop out in the middle of the street and get out and try and figure out what's going on. It's possible that if he did stop and then get out, that person could have drove into them or drove over them. He ends up going to the station, which sounds good, but as I said, doesn't mean that, everyone's going to be there. When he gets there, there's no one waiting for him. There's no other officers there to assist him. And as he pulls into this gate, he is essentially pulling into a bottleneck. He's pulling in to an area where he's going to have to stop. And as he's stopped and is stationary, it is easier for him to be attacked. He's not going to be able to very easily drive through that gate. Now, I'm sure that he could defeat that gate with that vehicle. It doesn't look like it's that type of security gate. But you still don't want to give the enemy any advantage. And so I think that him pulling into the station like this with no one there waiting was a bad move on their part. I think that they could have continued to circle around the block, call for units to come to assist, tell them what's going on, and have them waiting at that gate or in that driveway right there. And that officer pulls in with that person behind them, and then boom, there's 4 or 5 more officers standing there waiting, rifles out, ready to see what's up.
The north side of the building. As the gate opens, the SUV rams the back of the patrol car and forced it forward. The officer tells the dispatcher.
So there's not much you could do at this point while you're being rammed like that. He's now going into a fenced-in parking lot, essentially. So he's going to have less maneuvering room. And he has a vehicle of somewhat larger mass behind him, pushing on him. due to it being a police car and there being a cage in the vehicle, he can't very easily pull his gun out, swivel in his seat, have his arm stretch out across the back seat and aim out the rear windshield. There's going to be a cage right there that's going to prevent him from being able to do that. So he can't just simply, basically from his seat, turn around and aim out the back windshield at the person behind him. It's not going to work. Not going to be able to very easily aim out the window at the person either, especially if you're right-handed. Maybe left-handed, potentially, but I still don't even see that being a very good viable option. So he's kind of stuck where they're at.
Dispatcher, what is happening?
I'm sorry, 34. Can you give me the channel?
The car was being pushed for several feet.
He just hit the back of my car. Now he's ran into me.
As the patrol car was being pushed for several feet, the officer rolled out of the vehicle.
He done the fucking Hondo roll. I don't know. I don't think that I would have chosen this option. Fucking roll out the car. Yeah, I don't think I would have chose that option because that, one, puts you at more risk of being injured, one, from the fall and the rolling, and secondly, probably more importantly, you're now outside of this vehicle and more easily able to be ran over by the suspect vehicle.
Faced the suspect vehicle.
Luckily, she stopped. If she really wanted to, all she had to do is cut that wheel to the left and run his ass over.
And fired his duty weapon. The patrol car continued down the ramp and collided.
It's a Crown Vic, so hopefully he can get out of having to drive a Crown Vic, and maybe they'll give him a newer Dodge Charger or something. That could have been part of his reasoning for bailing out of that fucking Crown Vic. He said, "I'm tired of this old piece of shit car. I won't let it fucking crash. I'll get me a new one."
With a curb. The officer took cover behind a forensics van where he encountered a crime scene specialist who
I bet she got the shit scared out of her.
we quickly ushered out of the way. The crime scene specialist ran for cover and hid behind a pillar in the garage bay.
And there she is with a camera. She could very easily be out there snapping photos of what's going on. I'm joking. That's probably not the best place for her to be out there taking pictures. Realistically, instead of running and getting out of view and then hiding back here, like, continue moving. Like, there's a door somewhere. You know how to get in through that door. Go through that door. Go through those locked doors. Get into a more secure area where it's going to be harder for the person to get out and get you. That person could have got out with a rifle and engaged in a gunfight with that officer and killed that officer. And then that person could have very easily walked to these garage doors and then saw the crime scene photographer hiding around the corner and then blasted her. So just running to get out of view and then hiding is not enough. If you really feel that you need to be running like that. If you feel like you need to be running like that and getting the hell out of there, keep moving. Don't stop. Get the fuck out of there. And hide. Like, that's not a good hiding spot right there, right? Like, all you gotta do is go around the corner and peekaboo, you're there. So the best thing that she could have done is continue moving, go through locked doors. She has to have the ability to get in through those locked doors. Those doors are not probably open. They're probably secured. Go through those doors, get into a better secured area of the facility where it's less likely an intruder can get to you. And if you feel like you need to, continue moving through that building until you get to an exterior door. Go out that damn exterior door and keep on a trucking.
Several other professional staff were also in the area and quickly ran back into the building. Professional staff were also in the area and quickly ran back into the building. Several other professional staff were also...
So I don't know what kind of professional staff these are. They appear to have body cameras on. They could be like animal control officers or more crime scene technicians or something. I don't know what they are. They just refer to them as professional staff. And he mentioned that they're at the jail, so they could also be detention officers. They could be working inside the jail, and they're outside on a break or something. Other than that, I don't know what else they could be.
Also in the area and quickly ran back into the building. Other professional staff were also in the area and quickly ran back into the building.
Yeah, I was like, we don't want no smoke.
Officer then saw a woman, later identified as 39-year-old Taneysha Carter, get out of the SUV and run in.
So, obviously, I firmly believe that he was 100% justifiable for that first round of shooting that he did at her. At this point, I still think he's justified, but I could also see how it could be argued that he isn't. I could see someone saying, well, this doesn't meet, or this does not meet the part of the exception for Tennessee versus Gardner. I would say it does. I'd say that she has proven herself to be a substantial risk to public. Following down an officer like that, stalking an officer down like that, and then attacking them, yeah, that's certainly a person who is a substantial risk to society. That's just not a bright thing to do, to stalk down an officer and attack them with a deadly weapon like that. So yeah, I would say that this woman is a substantial risk to the rest of the public and that he would be justified in using deadly physical force against her as she's fleeing. But I could see how some other people would say, oh no, all she's doing is running away, and you can't use deadly force to stop a fleeing felon if they're not a risk, blah blah blah. Her whole actions leading up to what she did, she is a risk. And for all we know, and here's the other thing too, you don't know if the person's simply just trying to run away and escape, or if they're trying to run to a position of cover to which to engage you from. For all we know, she could be running back to take cover behind something to further engage in a gunfight with this officer. She could be, she could have initially at the beginning of this had her gun sticking out the window of her car, and then the collision of their vehicles caused her to drop it, and now she could be running back to pick that gun up. That's a plausible possibility right there as well. So just because a person is running away, it doesn't mean that they are disengaging from the fight, that they are signifying that they are done. They no longer wish to cause you any harm or cause anyone else any harm. Don't know that for sure. They, like I said, they could be trying to go take a position of cover to have an advantage in a gunfight against you, or they could be going back to retrieve something that has fallen so that they can continue to fight against you.
In a north-northeast direction. This is when the officer fired his duty weapon again. And here is what was captured on surveillance video. As Carter ran, she dropped to the ground and began rolling toward the security gate. Backup officers were able to treat her for her injury until Mesa Fire and medical personnel arrived and took her to the hospital. Carter was treated for one gunshot wound, which at this point in the investigation appears to have been sustained during the first shooting while she was still in her vehicle. Carter was...
So, what kind of crazy is this woman? Well, looking at azfamily.com, Arizona's family, CBS 5, 3TV CBS 5. So the article talks about the incident. Court documents said Carter told investigators she believes law enforcement, the military, and a group she referred to as the Illuminati are trying to kill her. Yeah. She claims she was trying to get the officer's attention to tell him this information. Carter also said she thought the officer knew who she was. Court paperwork says Mesa police detained her in 2020 for mental health reasons. Court records show Carter has prior convictions for drug and shoplifting charges. According to Arizona's family records for Maricopa County, this is the 35th officer-involved shooting in the Valley in 2022. Yeah, so she believes that the police, military, and the Illuminati are trying to kill her, and she was only trying to get his attention to tell him about all of this. Well, she sure as fuck got his attention all right. She also got the attention of some bullets. Crazy people like this exist. Some people are just fucking batshit crazy out there. They really are. People talk about there being a mental health crisis in this nation. Holy fuck. I don't think people understand the gravity of some of it. Like, they say that, and they're right, but I don't think they understand how right they are. I don't think they fully understand the level of batshit crazy that exists in this country. Hell, this world. I mean, it's not like we are the only nation on this planet that has batshit crazy people. There are people who they're out there. Like, they are fucking gone, and they walk among us. Like, you go to a restaurant, they're there. You go grocery shopping, they're there. You're out walking in public, out on the sidewalk, downtown area, they're around you. Like, there are crazy people everywhere, and sometimes you don't even know they're crazy. Like, it's not the quintessential, like, crazy look, like some psychotic looking motherfucker in the corner drooling or anything like that. They look normal. They even talk normal at first, at the surface. Now you start really talking to them and having conversation with them, you start picking up real quick, like, this motherfucker's a few fries short of a Happy Meal. But at first glance, they may appear to be normal. Now, there's some who are batshit crazy, and at first glance, you can tell that they're not normal. There are some real Michael Myers, like, crazy kind of people out there. Like, no shit. Like, just, they're fucking bonkers. And obviously, she's one of them. Now, the problem that we have in this nation is people think that that's an excuse, or rather, people seem to think that that's an exemption for being held accountable, for being held in jail. People believe, oh, well, they have a mental health problem. They don't need to be put in jail. They need treatment. They need treatment. They need services instead of jail time. Yeah, I'm not gonna say they don't need treatment, but they sure as shit do need to be kept away from the rest of the public. They need to be locked away, whether it's a jail or a psychiatric facility where they cannot voluntarily leave. Like, they need to be kept away from the rest of us. There's people who should not be out walking with us, and the only reason they're out walking with us is because of stupid laws. Like, here in Kentucky, there's kind of this loophole thing that was in existence, and it made news. There was this guy, I'm going to forget the details of it. It had something to do with him and a juvenile girl. Like, he attacked some girl. They tried him. He was deemed to be basically insane, but got his criminal charges dropped. They couldn't convict him for it because he's insane or whatever. But there was not enough there to say that he was a threat to society, and so there was nothing to allow the courts to have him locked away in a psychiatric type of facility. So the motherfucker was able to walk freely, and this was not the first time that something like this had happened. It had happened one or two times before, where he got caught doing something, and because of his his crazy level, he was not convicted of anything because of his insanity. And again, there was not enough there to show that he was a substantial risk to the public, so he was not legally able to be court ordered to be remanded somewhere under watch, under lock and key. So he was allowed to go back to the streets. So shit like that exists out there. People who are they won't catch a conviction because of their insanity, but they also will not catch a one-way ticket to the loony bin because there's not enough there to justify stripping them of their constitutional rights. Some of that stuff needs to be relooked at, and unfortunately, all that stuff is usually secret. Medical records, mental health records are not subject to open records request. You can't get those. And so the public really never gets a true view of the amount of crazy that's out there. They don't get to see what law enforcement has to deal with on a day-to-day basis. If people truly got to see all the body cam footage, they got to see all the reports and everything, they got to see what the local police see, and that some of these people are still walking around, they're not locked up, and they're batshit crazy, and they are a danger, I think people would have a lot to say about that. And I think they would have a lot to say with enough intensity that things would get changed. But unfortunately, that's not happening because they can't see that stuff. Because it's like we want to treat some information like it's fucking national secrets, you know, like it's something coming from the fucking CIA, and hide all the documents and not let people see them. That's wrong. That is totally fucking wrong. Someone's mental health records does not necessarily mean that because it's their personal medical record that it needs to be hidden from the public. Sometimes the public interest takes precedence over someone's personal information. If someone is so goddamn batshit fucking crazy that they think that they're going to get to heaven if they kidnap a little 5-year-old kid and cut their head off, then the public needs to know about that. If there's not enough to hold them in a facility somewhere because, you know, they haven't acted on it or they haven't specifically said they're going to do it. It's just a belief they have. People need to know that shit. Yeah, not much else to say about this video. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense, thank you for watching.